All right, welcome to one of my first tutorials on 3D design with Nomad Sculpt. Today I wanted to jump into just a random project that's themed for this time of year. Many people just celebrated Easter, and I thought maybe doing a cute little Easter bunny as a first tutorial project would be pretty fun. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing you'll do is you'll open up Nomad Sculpt, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually import a reference image, and we're going to get rid of this base circle that we always start out with, this base sphere. We'll get rid of that first, and then we'll do our reference image. I went ahead and generated a reference image that I thought would be kind of cool using ChatGPT. And we'll do our best to model that image. We're not going to be doing this one. This was one that I did a little while ago. We'll try and see if we can recreate this super cute character. And you know what? We're going to shoot for the moon and see if we land in the clouds when it comes to this one. We'll just do what we can. The first thing I do when I'm looking at a model like this is I want to kind of try and find its basic shapes and see if I can kind of get those shapes roughly into position. Try and think about the shapes that I think most closely represent whatever model that I'm trying to make. In this case, looks like a ton of circular spherical shapes because we've got a nice plump bunny here. And we might have some twisting, maybe tube shapes that we'll add here. Eggs, more spheres, pretty obvious there. We've got some eyebrows that we can use the tube tool for that as well. These ears, that could be done in a couple of ways. One that might work is just taking spheres, stretching them, curving the edges of them, and then flattening them out a bit. And then I'll use a masking tool, and I'll show you what that is later, to mask this area out. And then we'll push into the ear to give it that sharper edge. Another good tool is to just use a tube tool here on the edge. That might work as well. But it looks like I'm going to be using tons of spheres to try and get this one done. As far as this basket, this will be interesting. I'll have to think about how I want to do this one. I might actually be able to use just a cylinder and a stamping tool to stamp in a mask and then draw out this kind of basket weave effect. But yeah, with that plan overview of what we might do in place, we'll go ahead and jump into trying to make some of the basic shapes come through. First thing I'll do, I'll add these spheres in here, and then I'll position them as best I can. Another thing that I like to do, I like to kick up our post-subdivision up to around 7 to get me like pretty good looking spheres to start out with. The low poly stuff, I mean, there's people that do the designs with low poly first, and then they'll upscale it as they go and add more vertices as they're adding more detail. I just like to start with like a higher resolution, just because I like to do the details as I go. It's purely preference. It's up to you. Okay. All right. So we've got this head that we'll start designing, and then we've got some ears. I can just clone the sphere that I already have. What do you call that? We just had it up a moment ago. Hold on. Let me open the menu. Our post-subdivision. We already kicked up that one, so I can just clone it and with this clone, we'll use the mirror tool, and then we'll use our gizmo, and we'll kind of move our ear-like spheres up into position. They're going to be roughly around here, right about right there, and then I'll just scale it down, and then I'll stretch those into position. It looks like the rabbit kind of has chubby cheeks. That can be handled in a couple of ways. I could actually go in and also add spheres, or duplicate or clone a sphere here, and then add or turn on the mirror for that. And then I can come down here and I can actually kind of start matching the rabbit's chubby cheeks with those spheres, and it'll just make it a little bit easier to try and get the shape that I want. And then I can mold into that later. Let's see here. What else do we need to do? Let's see here. We've got a couple spheres that we can use for the top of his head. Actually, I got a bad habit of doing that. I'll just clone, again, one of the spheres that I made from before. Shrink this down. And that'll be a couple of these hairs coming off the hair. Something like that. Okay, and that's a pretty decent start for those pieces. We also have the body. We can work on the body later. We'll do some of the fun stuff. All right, so we've got this rabbit-looking kind of shape already. We need to kind of start organizing this stuff. So I'm gonna group these. So I'll just go up here into my items tool, and then I'll click add, and then I'm gonna click a group, and then I'm gonna start parking things that are head related into this group. I'm just gonna click and drag, put things into the group, and try not to make them subordinate to anything unless it's absolutely necessary. Like these could be subordinate to the head, just because they would be attached to it normally. Let's see here. And then we've got some other spheres. These spheres can come up in here for the cheeks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And so I'm going to go through, I'm just going to validate these shapes real quick. Let's validate that one, and validate that one. And what validating does is it takes it from its like kind of primitive shape that we can manipulate easily, the size and divisions on it, into a shape that we can start manipulating, and then we'll get access to all of our tools off to the right. And so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna combine all these shapes here pretty soon. I'm at least wanting to combine the cheeks, and let me pull these out of here for a second. Actually, we're gonna combine at least the cheeks and the face. To combine these shapes and to make them kind of like a singular shape, we're going to go in here and we're going to use boolean, and we'll do a voxel merge, and now those will become one single shape, right? And it looks like I should have validated the mirror first. Let's validate that. Let's do keep instance, that's fine. And now we'll voxel merge them, because I lost a cheek when I tried to do that a second ago. Okay, and now I've got one single object that will represent that, and then I can come in and I can kind of smooth that out and make it more of like a singular shape instead of what you saw a moment ago, where it kind of looks like it's a bunch of shapes smashed into each other, I can make this into one just by smoothing those angles out. And now I've got kind of the essence of the rabbit's cheeks and face, at least somewhat in here. I might need to add some other stuff down here at the bottom. What I could do to match that, let's go into X-ray mode, and then let's turn on blending and opacity so I can kind of see through as I'm making this rabbit. What I want to do is I want to kind of see his overall shape, and now I need to start kind of moving things into position. So up here, we're actually going to pull this out, right? And then we'll push this in like that. And then we just want to match the overall outline of the rabbit, kind of like this. Okay. And then we'll come in and we'll smooth some of those rough surfaces out again. And that's pretty good. That's kind of what we're looking for. I'll turn the opacity back up, and then kind of we'll move some things kind of back into position because it'll look a little bit weird. But something like that. And then we'll come through and smooth out these edges, kind of like that. All right. All right, the next thing is that we've got kind of a chin or something going on down there. And there's a couple tools that we could use. One, I could just add like another sphere and blend it in, which might be the safer bet. But we'll try this inflate tool and see how it looks. And then we'll just come down here and inflate out a chin. I'm not sure why that's drawing on the other side like that. Let's turn off symmetry. Okay. And then let's turn on our wire view so that I can see this a little better. Let's click solo. And what we want to do is we want to just add a chin down here at the bottom. And I don't like the way that's looking, so we might just revert to adding in a sphere. So let's turn all that off. Let's add another sphere and turn up our post division to 7. Shrink that down, and we're going to move that down here so that it fits within our rabbit's face like that. Yeah. And that should be okay. Let me check the angle on that. Let's make it a little bit bigger, like that. And then we'll merge them. So I'll validate it. We'll take these two, we'll merge them, and then we'll smooth this area out. And that'll make it a little bit faster to get the shape that I'm wanting to go for. Okay, and now I've got kind of a cute little rabbit head thing going on here. Let's see here. To get this little nose area done, we could probably go back to that inflate tool and see if that gives us the effect that we're going for. Turn on wire, and actually let's do the little button part of the nose first. Let's turn this up to 7. Shrink this down. We'll pull it out like that. Again, make it much smaller. And then we're going to move it down here and make it roughly the same size as the nose. Turn off wire for a second. We need it out here. And then what we want to do is we're going to use our move tool, make it quite a bit smaller, and we're just going to push on the bottom. Let's do symmetry enabled, local symmetry. This will make it a little bit easier. Okay, and we're just going to push up like that. All right, and then this part, squeeze it in, and that looks pretty cute. Definitely not big enough though. Make it bigger. It shrunk a little when I was squeezing it down. Okay. And let's turn off X-ray, see if we can get a good view of it. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Okay, so with that in place, we can go ahead and go back to what we were going to do with our inflate tool. And let's inflate in a pocket around. Let's turn on local symmetry. That way the inflation is symmetrical. And then we're just going to focus on this area. And then I'll come in and I will smooth that out a bit. Like that. And then let's see here. We could use a mask tool now to start making that mouth. So we get our mask. We're going to turn it down to where it's pretty small. Before we do that, let me draw this crease line so that I know roughly where I want to begin. So actually I'm going to crease around the nose like this. And then I will make some adjustments to that later, but that's pretty good. And then let's see here, let's turn on our line so that we can see that, and then we'll turn off symmetry. We'll just see the line and then no symmetry. And I just realized that this little guy is not centered according to that needs to be over just a touch. Let's go back and move it just a hint more. Okay, yeah, there we go. Fixed. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to go to our crease tool. Crease tool. It's in here somewhere. There we go. We're going to make this a little bit smaller. And then we just want to crease down like this. I have a habit of trying to follow what I see in the image, but it's 3D, so I don't need to curve. I can just draw a straight line, a straight crease, and it'll handle itself. Okay, with that done, then we can do our mask. So with mask, we just need to mask out this little mouth area. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll invert it. We use our gizmo tool, and with our gizmo we can push the mouth inwards just like that. And then we'll clear all mask. And then we're going to go back with our smoothing tool and then turn that down a little bit. We'll turn on mask symmetry. That way it's not getting too rough. And now we've got kind of that thing going on. Okay, you can probably see that here, that chubbiness of the face is actually kind of curving into the mouth. So we're gonna try and replicate that. So kind of like that. That's cute. Okay. And then we'll come back and we'll smooth that out. And let's remesh this up to a couple hundred just to keep us from getting too pixelated. All right. Kind of like that. Okay, we're close. We're pretty close. Okay, so let's do the little bit of hair at the top. That's pretty easy. So we'll just do the larger one first. We'll do a gizmo tool. We just need to squeeze it down like this. And of course, don't forget both sides like that. And then we just need to tilt it like that. And actually, since I put in all that hard work, let's just duplicate that and move it over and shrink it down. And that's done. We don't have to spend too much time on that. That one's pretty easy. Okay, that looks good. Let's see here. Now there's a couple other approaches that we can take from here. I think let's try and work on the ears. I think they're going to be hard, but we'll do our best. All right, so we got these ears, and this is going to be interesting. So we got to stretch it out. We know that. And we got to tilt them into position. So we got to tilt them like that. And we need to shrink them down to where they're embedded into our rabbit's head. That looks pretty close. And the hard part here is actually going to be trying to get the masking done. Let's validate that. Actually, no, let's go back and let's squish these ears down a bit so they're more flat like that. And then it looks like there's a bit more curve to it. Okay. And let's put that up like that. Yeah. How about like that? No? Trying to make sure that the gap looks right between the tuft of hair, the side of his head, the angle of the ears. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we'll validate that, and then we'll use this masking tool again, and we'll see if we can do this. We're going to use maybe local symmetry. It'll help show that line. And what we're going to do is from the bottom here, we're going to come up and over like this. Now, the line's a little rough, but our smoothing should be able to help us get it fixed. Okay, with that done, of course, we're going to invert it again. We're going to go to, we could use the gizmo tool here and push in like this. But I think I'm going to use deflate, we're going to use the subtractive inflation tool and push it in like this. And I think that'll get us closer to what we want to do right out the gate. You know what? That's pretty good. I just want to come through here and do it one more time. It's probably overkill, but that looks pretty good. All right, and let's see here. We can take off our masking now. We'll come through and we'll smooth out these edges and take out some of that, the intense line that's there. We'll just try and smooth this out as best we can. This might take a little bit of time, but should be worth it. Okay. All right, pretty good. I'm happy with that result. Let's see here. Let's use the inflate tool again, this time without subtraction. Turn this down just a bit, and we're just going to come through and make that a little bit more sound in roundness, and smooth this out here like that. Not an exact science, but science nonetheless. Okay. Make sure that doesn't look too crazy from our other angles. I forget that I have this other side selected, so that's the side that I got to work with. Try and get this bend out of this light here. Cool. All right. And then now that we've got the basic shape done, we'll use our move tool and kind of just pinch it a bit here at the bottoms so that it's more cute looking. Kind of like that. This is kind of hard to get right without making a mess. And then we'll stretch it out into his head just a touch like that. Okay. That'll be good. That's pretty good. Definitely might want to hit it with the inflate tool. Before I do that, I'm going to remesh it up to a couple hundred, and then just hit it one more time with the inflate tool and smooth it, just to make sure that we get that really cool rounded effect. And that'll be fine. I think we've got the essence of it. Trying to get things kind of even here. Okay, cool. And if we try and line it up, we might need to adjust the actual overall position of it, but I think we're pretty close. What we might need to do is instance it so that one ear is a little bit different than the other one. We can validate that. Yeah, we'll do this last. We'll do that towards the end, once we got everything into place. Okay. Now, we need to work on his eyes. For sure his eyes. And probably we could work on his nose a little bit as well, because this whole area looks like it needs to come out. A bit more like that. There we go. Cool. That looks better. We can turn that down just a touch and then just push in right there. There we go. Cool. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to do these eyes. And that's just a matter of lining everything up. He's about like that. Let's go ahead and turn on our blending so that we can see through and see where these eyes get positioned. So it looks like we can use our masking tool. We're just going to mask out roughly where the eyes are. Like that. Cool. And then, of course, we'll invert, gizmo tool, and we'll come in and push this back a bit like that. And that's where our eyes are going to be. Clear our mask, smoothing tool. Let's voxel remesh this real quick. And start smoothing it. Okay, so the eyes are going to fit in where these new sockets were just made. And all we got to do is get a sphere. Actually, we're going to be using a trick that I use for eyeball design. We need one sphere to match that general shape. And then we need, actually, we'll just do the whole thing. Let's do a sphere. Of course, I tried to stick it in the group. I mean, technically it goes in there. That's fine. Technically this goes in here too. And technically this is going to get mirrored as well. And then we're going to add in a group. We'll call this eyes. And then this one was ears. Right? Something like that. Okay. Now this sphere, go ahead and push this up to 7 again. But what we want to do is get these into position like so. We're just going to try and match roughly the socket position like that, and make sure that it's a little bit bigger than the actual socket that we made, or just slightly the same size. Okay, that's pretty good. And then we need to make sure that the eyeballs are not bugging out too much. We'll squish it down like that. Cool. Let's turn our head's opacity back up just so we can see everything correctly. Cool. So, not perfect. Still, we've got some adjustments to do with the eyes. It looks like we're going to have to go inwards like that. Cool. Let's squeeze it down a bit more. And pull it out. Let's rotate it, actually, like that. That way it matches the contour of the head a bit better. Cool. Okay, so somehow with this, we've got to make the iris, you know, like the retina, all that fun stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a few copies of this. We're going to validate that, and then we're going to clone it 4 total times. So this will be the white of the eye. I'm going to use this one to subtract from the eye. So we're actually going to pull this out like this. And we're going to move it inwards like that. Let's use X-ray so that we can see where we're impacting. And what we want to do is we want to carve away at the inside of the eye with this. So we're going to do eyeball off here, check both of these, do a boolean and boolean. And that should give us one eyeball with that part cut out. And then now we have these 2 eyeballs to add in the color and that clear lens. So we're going to be doing color on this one. What we'll do is we'll make it just slightly smaller. That way it's just slightly offset compared to where the eyeball usually would be. And now we need to come in and start doing the eyeball coloring. So what we'll use is a paint tool, but we got to do a bunch of adjustments to our brush. We're going to come in, we're going to hit stroke. Stroke needs to be lock radius, and what that does is it lets us put in one, a point at one spot, and we'll be able to draw from that spot and drag outwards and then get the circular shape of brown that we're looking for. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to alpha. We're going to turn scaling up to 1.5. And then fall off, we're going to turn this to 1. And what this does is it makes a circle. We're going to turn on symmetry, show lines, X, Y, local. That way we can get this centered. Something like this. Oh, symmetry will actually be turned off. And then what we might actually do as well to get sharp colors is we're going to turn on dynamic topology for this particular object. And that'll help us get sharper edges. Okay. That's about where we want to be. I feel like I'm doing this wrong. Yeah, I am. Okay. We should be doing it on this white part of the eye. And then we need to add layers. So we have the white layer, and then this is the first color layer. And we're going to be getting this brown color, and we'll start with a dark. Actually, let's start with black first. So we'll click that. And I have a feeling it's grabbing the color from not the picture when I'm trying to do that. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do black first. And what we're doing is we're creating that black ring on the edge of the eye. Symmetry will be turned off, but we need to see our X and Y plane here. And I don't know why that just leapt out of the head. What just happened? Why did that just jump out of the head like that? Weird. Okay, So what we want to do is we're going to paint in the color of the eyes into these spheres. And we're starting with that on this first layer that we've made, this first layer. We're going to, I need symmetry actually off, but I want to see the lines. And that symmetry needs to be local symmetry. Okay, like that. Close enough. It's not going to be exactly right, but that's fine. And we're going for something kind of like this. There we go. That'll be good enough. And then we're going to come in with our smooth tool. We're going to turn the intensity all the way down to 0. And we're going to come and smooth out the edge of this. This circle of color. And then we need to smooth that out a little bit more. Oops. You gotta be kind of careful when you're doing this. It's really easy to mess up what you're doing. We can also do with the paint tool. We'll turn off our lock radius. And we'll come through and erase kind of on this extra edge here. It's kind of better to like just do one stroke at a time. That way, if you make a mistake on one of your strokes, you can just click undo like that. And you don't end up making a mess. Okay, and then we can go back to our smooth and kind of blend that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just got to be close. Paint, erase, small tool. We'll just come through and get rid of some of this extra there. And then we'll smooth again. That's good. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add another layer. Use our lock radius. And this time we want to do the brown, but we're going to do like one of the darker browns. So we're going to grab our eyedropper tool and we're going to get kind of like this dark brown color. And we're going to go back into lock radius. We've got that turned on. And similar thing here. We need to paint that. That was the smooth tool. Paint. Not erase. Brown color. And we're going to do lock radius again. I think I locked radius on our smooth tool. Good times. Okay. Just like that. And then we're going to do another layer. I drop a lighter brown. I drop a lighter brown. And like that. But another thing that we can do at this point is we can turn off this fall off. We can make our fall off a little bit softer now that we've got the outline of that black done. Okay, like that. And we'll do one more. So add one more layer. Or eyedrop we'll eye drop the lightest brown that we can get out of it. And then we'll put that in here. Just like that. And that one we can just turn the, we can do some color smoothing. That'll be nice. And we'll just smooth those colors in. Layer by layer. Cool. All right. So this is the white part of the eye done. Then we're going to go in here. Let's make this one into the lens. So we'll turn on refraction. And then this last one, we're going to shrink it and make it into a pupil. And we'll paint it black. And we'll give it more of a shiny surface like this. And so just so you can see what we're doing here, we're making kind of that middle part of the eyeball, the iris, right there. And we can just shrink that in. And we can make that any size that we want because we have full control over it. So it looks like his iris is pretty big. So we'll just make that quite large like that. And it's slightly higher. That's pretty cute. Okay. Now this this refraction that we did here, we can actually we can increase the reflectiveness a little bit. That helps. But we have this glossiness and roughness. We're going to turn this down so that it's not so intense. So that'll give us like that reflective property of the eyeball. And that is looking pretty stellar. That looks good. Okay. Let's see here. The only thing that I see that we have left to do, we can smooth out more around the eyes. I still have lock radius on this one. So we need to smooth out around the eyes. Let's do, to help with that, let's do a voxel remesh. Let's make it a little bit higher. And now I'll try and smooth. Oh, my intensity is all the way down. Make sure you turn your intensity back up if you're going to be doing your smoothing. And then we'll be able to make this look not quite so rough. Like that. Super cute. Okay. That's pretty good. That definitely is starting to capture the essence of our little bunny. I wish his head wasn't so lumpy on this side, but that's my fault. I think I tried to match too much what was going on with the image and not paying attention to what I should be doing. Okay, there we go. Bunny head, pretty well done. Let's do the tongue real quick. That one's pretty simple. So, again, let's call this one head. And then let's add a sphere to do the tongue. Again, we'll kick that up to 7. Shrink this down. pull it out of his head, shrink it down. We can use the X-ray to try and get it in position. Bring it down and stick it into the mouth like that. That's pretty much spot on. That's pretty much what it looks like. And then let's just grab the color. Let's grab the color. So we'll do validate, paint. We'll grab this. We'll just grab the color straight from the image like that. And paint all. And then this one is going to be a little bit rougher color, like that. And actually we could probably make it a bit brighter. Just like that. Okay, and let's do the nose color real quick. Let's grab this eyedropper. We'll grab the brightest color of the nose right there and paint that. That looks good. And next, we'll do his head. I'll use this paint dropping tool, ink dropping tool. Grab that, hit paint all. Okay, so you're gonna notice the colors don't match exactly, and that's just because right now I believe the environment's not really set up to make it look the same, but we can work on that part later. We'll do like a nice summery outside environment to make it look more interesting. This paint color that we're doing could also benefit from being a little bit more rough, like that. That'll help. And then we need texturing, that kind of stuff too. So it's just, that just comes with, as we get into it and do all the processing, we'll be able to do all that. Let's see here. Let's do the ears now. So let's go ahead and jump into the ears. And we'll do same color. We can hit just paint all for that. And then we'll come back and we'll add some more detail later to that. His tufts of hair, these two little guys. We'll paint those. It's kind of tricky to have all these menus open at the same time. Yeah, those are good. You know what? I just realized his eyes are like super buggy. Let's see if we can rotate those into his head a little bit better. For some reason, the origin. Let's move the individual eye. That would be smarter. Let's do something more like that, so it's not so intense. And let's make it like taller and push it more into his head like that. My menu's getting in my way. Okay. And let's bring it down like that and push it back in a little bit more. Okay, definitely got some positioning to work on here. Too far down, too far out. Kind of tricky to get this in place. We'll actually just shrink it down like that. Tricky to get it into place. Eh? Pull that down like that. Good enough. Good enough. At least it's not so buggy. Yeah, that's not as intense. We could probably do with like rotating it downwards and then bring it in more like that. I'm really trying to capture that cute essence that it already has without messing up the overall look. Okay. I think I got it. All right. That's pretty good. All right. So we'll stop this as a part 1 of the tutorial in making this cute little Easter bunny looking thing. And when we come back, we'll start working on the body and adding arms, legs, tail, tummy, and then we'll see how far we get with that. Then we'll start adding in our texturing. I still need to add in the eyebrows. We can do that real quick. But overall, this is a pretty good start. We'll go ahead and click on our select tool and then do a quick turntable scene of our little bunny head so far. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already, and we'll see you in the next video.